Now you will watch a video that Mike has recorded for 15 minutes. It's the first ever time it's entirely uncensored. This is really historic, ladies and gentlemen.
My name is Dr. Mike Yeadon, and in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to focus on one major point, which is that the purported vaccines against this alleged illness, COVID-19, were, in my view, deliberately designed intentionally to injure, kill, and reduce fertility. Now, this is an allegation I've been making for around 3.5 years. In that time, if I was wrong, ladies and gentlemen, I think numerous scientists would have rebutted what I've said in writing and in video. And if I was wrong, I would have expected the drug companies whose products I am maligning to have sought and secured a court injunction to stop me repeating these allegations. Neither of those things have ever happened. What has happened instead is that I have been extraordinarily censored and smeared sideways. And I think I offer that to you as strong evidence that I may be over the target, at least in relation to these injectable products that have definitely injured and killed many people. So first, just brief few words of introduction in terms of credentials. So Mike Yeadon, I've been a professional research scientist for over 30 years in the pharmaceutical industry and in biotech. My first degree was in biochemistry and toxicology. It was a joint honours degree. I got a first. Then I did a second degree, a PhD. It's a research-based piece of work lasting 3 years, and my focus was respiratory pharmacology, the study of the impact of drugs on respiration and so on. And that led into my career, where I became a senior research scientist responsible for new drugs to treat allergic, respiratory, and later dermatology diseases. I was at one point vice president and the most senior research person within Pfizer global R&D, and I left in 2011. And for 10 years after that, 7 of those, I was founder and CEO of a biotech called Ziarco, which was acquired by Novartis in 2017, since when I've been a consultant, although I've discontinued those activities in the last 4.5 years or so. So I've not earned a penny from speaking out in the last 4.5 years, and I don't want to either. There is a longer video by me recorded a month or so ago, 22 minutes long, and it's called Silver Bullet, and it's on my Telegram channel, and I hope rather more widely. So, but today I'm just going to focus on the design and effects of these so-called vaccines. So I've been involved all of my professional life with other talented people trying to design and test potential new treatments for respiratory disease, and as I say later on, dermatology applications. So I can tell you that this, with my background in toxicology and my own research experience and 30 years in the industry, this qualifies me, I think, better than any other commentator to evaluate what was in the minds of the people who designed these products. Let me tell you that every component in a medicine is chosen. It's chosen to be there. It's not random. It's chosen to be there to achieve some purpose. And that's normal, perhaps to help a drug dissolve, to be absorbed, to persist in your blood, or to leave your blood quickly, to penetrate the brain if it was a neurological drug, or to stay close to the lung if it was an inhaled drug. So it's quite normal to make choices with objectives in mind. So I believe the intentions of the designers are written into the choices they made, the structures and components, formulation of these products. So I'm going to use those skills, as it were, to back calculate what was in their mind. What objectives did they have when they chose these structures and formulations? So I'm going to just say, before I get into that, just one thing about these so-called vaccines. My experience of the industry over 30 years tells me it is formally impossible to invent, research, test, evaluate, manufacture, gain authorization for, and launch a complex new biological product in under a year. It's formally impossible. I don't care how much money and people you put on it. There are a series of linear steps which, when taken together, unless you miss some out, cannot be completed under several years. So if someone told you they had brought a brand new airline to market with new engines in under a year, I think you would know it's formally impossible to do a clean sheet design, to stress test, to manufacture, to test, to flight test, optimize the engines and get regulatory clearance and be ready to take you across the Atlantic in under a year. And of course, it's never been done, and it's never been done with complex biological products in under a year. So whatever else they did, they didn't do what they said because it cannot be done in under a year. Secondly, and I'll come to the examples in a moment, there are in these products numerous features which, in my view, my peers, people like me, people with my training and experience, would know for sure would give rise to the toxicities that I pointed out in 2020. They don't require particular skills. You need to know how to do drug discovery and what can go wrong. But I'm not acting like a complete genius in spotting these, just someone who is a professional from this industry that has pointed out numerous features built in by choice that I believe, I think they obviously confer toxicity to the recipients. And as I've said, people designing these, people like me, in wherever they were, pharmaceutical industries or the military, knew these things were going to happen. And that's why I say it's intentional. I'm going to give you 3 examples that you can go and test. So the first one is, these are so-called gene-based products. That is, they've got a string of genetic information in them. Now, there aren't any products like that that are in routine use anywhere in the world. So they're brand new technology. But what you'll remember they told you that they do is they cause your body to make as a protein whatever was in that genetic code. Now, it's absolutely basic immunology. How is it, do you think, your body knows that what's inside of you is meant to be there and you don't attack it? And yet if something gets into your body from the outside, or a tumor forms, something that shouldn't be in you, your body can recognize that that's foreign or non-self and can attack it. And the answer is you tolerate everything that's meant to be inside your body. When you're in your mum's womb, we ruled out the ability to attack ourselves. So unless you get an autoimmune disease in later life, you play nice with yourself until something gets inside you or something goes wrong inside you. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are injected with a genetic sequence that causes you to manufacture a foreign protein, whether it's a virus or something out of a computer, it's not you and it's not meant to be in you. I assure you, your body recognizes that it's been invaded, something's in there that shouldn't be, and it launches a fatal attack on every cell that it thinks has gone wrong. It's trying to save you. So, and that autoimmune reaction, destruction, which your body is doing because it's trying to protect you, that will happen anywhere in your body, any cell, tissue, organ in your body where, unluckily, your dose of what was injected into you lands. So if it lands in your heart, you could get myocarditis or a heart attack. If it lands in your brain, you could get a stroke or neurological conditions. If it's in your eyes, you could go blind. If it's in your ovaries, it may first sterilize you. But that explains, in my view, a lot of the enormously diverse toxicity that's been seen with these products. So that's one. Your body is being made to manufacture something that does not belong in it. And when that happens, everybody with the first lecture of immunology will understand why that happens. It's not an accident, it's in the design, it's a deliberate choice. The second one then, what was encoded in the so-called vaccines? Now we're told it's spike protein. I don't think there is a natural spike protein, but proteins with sequences like that are known to be acutely toxic to blood cells, prompting blood clots, to nerve cells, causing them to malfunction, and probably other things I don't know anything about. So that's the second thing. Your body was forced to make not only a foreign protein, something that didn't belong in your body, your body was forced to make something that was directly toxic to your body. And the person who chose that sequence knew that's what the property of it was. It's not an accident, it's intentional. And then the third one is absolutely shocking. It's normal for drugs to be formulated, that is, to be wrapped in something. You'll see them in capsules or tablets. They might have a coating. If it's an inhaler, there might be some liquid with it so it can be propelled. In the case of these injectables, they were wrapped in really fatty globules called lipid nanoparticles, which means tiny little particles of fat. Lipid nanoparticles. Ladies and gentlemen, there were papers published as early as 2012, which I read a couple of years ago, that said that it is well understood in the industry by formulators that the payload that's contained within lipid nanoparticles, when injected into animals and people, lead to a disproportionate deposition of the payload into your ovaries. I remember the day I read that paper, I really couldn't sleep. The person who chose to use lipid nanoparticles to formulate the Moderna and Pfizer products knew perfectly well that what they would do is allow them to drift all through your body, through membranes, as if they weren't there, and disproportionately deposit in your ovaries. And given I've told you the first two things, which is that will induce your body to attack every cell in the body that follows the instructions, and that instruction, by the way, is to make a poison, you should no longer be surprised that people have been injured and killed and had their fertility reduced. I wish I didn't have to communicate this information, but there is no possibility that the people involved in designing these products did not know that they would have the effects that I predicted and that so many people have actually experienced. It is intentional. There is ample evidence that this assault, which is not the only thing that's ever happened, unfortunately, it's the first I noticed. I was a so-called normie until 2020. I believe everything I was told. But this is part of a long-planned assault by powerful, wealthy people operating above the level of nation. So I'm afraid organizations like the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the Bank for International Settlements, the World Economic Forum, are populated by the people who I believe have orchestrated this attack on humanity, and they're going to do it again. There are factories all around the world busy manufacturing these so-called vaccines and formulating them in the way I just described, and they're going to come up with contrived reasons why you need to roll your sleeve up. And I'm telling you, for the love of God, please don't do it. The only way we will push these people away is by speaking out as we see it and simply refusing to follow absurd instructions, no matter what ostensible reason they come up with for you to do that. So I mentioned I have been subject to astonishing censorship and smearing, and that's true. I've always said, if you hear me, please repeat what I have said to other people. I've got a tiny reach because I'm censored, and no one else is coming to save us. It's just a small number of us who are not willing to stay quiet while this is done to us. But it's part of a wider deception. The pandemic lie is a major one. I don't have time to go into it now, but see my other recording. But there wasn't a pandemic. There's never been a pandemic. They can't happen. It's a lie. The so-called human-induced climate change crisis, that's all a lie as well. It's the same people who put this together at the end of the 1960s, the Club of Rome. They chose these two topics of infectious disease and climate change to scare people because they realized it would force a response from above the level of nation. But I'm saying stand on your own feet and tell them to get lost with their absurd lies. And there's a third lie which underlies these. And it's they tell us, we've been told all our lives that the world is overpopulated, and it's literally absurd. If you're up in an aeroplane within a few minutes, even over a busy city, the place is just full of cities and forests and fields. So that's yet another lie. But I think that's what's driving them. They think there's too many of us little people, and they seek to control us digitally and then eventually inject us to death. It's only going to be stopped then by refusal to cooperate, and that's my testimony. I hope that was helpful to you.